It's week 2 of the return of Futurama, and this time they're directly following up a 20-year-old episode from the Fox era of the show, Kif Gets Knocked Up a Notch. A bold move for only the second produced episode in 10 years. This is a story that people have been wanting to see play out for a very long time, but did it live up to the hype and anticipation? I have a lot of thoughts. Let's dive into Futurama's latest, Children of a Lesser Bog.
Treacle.
Hey, also, if you want more Futurama analysis outside of this breakdown, make sure to check out my podcast, Cartoons That Curse. Toonerific Tariq and I have covered the entire series of Futurama, including last week's episode, and we'll be covering the rest of this season weekly, episode by episode, so go check it out.
Subscribe.
One thing I wanted to point out right off the bat is that these Hulu title cards at the beginning seem to have different music cues, another small detail that will seemingly be changed for every single episode alongside the title captions and cartoon clips. The episode starts off a little randomly, with Fry and Bender creating a honey-based chew candy to replace the residue that Zoidberg sucked off of Fry's jacket. Weird. Lots of honey and sugar going in there.
And just a touch of treacle to remind me of my dear departed Aunt Juanita. She drowned in treacle.
Did any of y'all know what treacle was? I had to look it up. Kinda curious if I'm the only one out of the loop on this one. After the honey clumps make Amy lose a couple of teeth, she opens her calendar to schedule a dentist appointment, noticing a new event reminder, which kicks off the remaining plot. Honestly, this felt like a flimsy way to connect this opening sequence with the main plot line, but you know what? That's okay. The joke events on Amy's calendar are pretty funny. Frozen yoga, hair extension cut, bacon-wrapped date night, good stuff. But the event reminder is about Kif and Amy's children, following up Kif Gets Knocked Up a Notch, which fittingly aired 20 years ago.
In 20 years, they'll sprout legs and crawl back onto land as children.
I'll be ready then.
I really enjoyed seeing Amy and Kif look back on the events of that episode fondly, and it's a nice use of the classic footage here. Also, did you notice that they're all using iPhones in this episode? I don't think they've used these iPhones since the episode Attack of the Killer App, when they were introduced, which is obviously a much hated episode, but personally, I think that the iPhone aspect is probably the best part of that episode. It had a lot of other really bad topical aspects, and I kind of love to see them use iPhones as the modern technology here. It's a cool piece of continuity that I'm surprised they didn't do in the Comedy Central era. Back to Amy and Kif. I didn't love how they caught the audience back up to speed with the Kif being pregnant storyline narratively. It felt really weird to me that they go into exposition mode to tell the other main characters about the birth of their tadpoles from Kif Gets Knocked Up a Notch. And then as soon as they show them the footage of that episode, we can see that all of them are right there in the footage. They saw it take place firsthand. I understand that they want to remind the audience of those events. It just feels off to me that the characters don't remember it, and I think they probably could have delivered this exposition differently. But these small qualms are overshadowed by sweet Kif and Amy moments.
Well, Amy, are you ready now?
Having a family with you is the only thing I want in the whole world.
This is the dynamic I want to see from Kif and Amy's relationship after all of these years. And with the Comedy Central run treating them pretty poorly in episodes like Proposition Infinity and The Butterjunk Effect, it's great to see them just lean fully into Kif and Amy as a successful relationship that's moving on to its next big stage. This episode also features the return of the Grand Midwife on Amphibios 9, who I guess has only appeared in 3 episodes. I thought she had been in more, but I forgot that she has like 3 titles from The Beast with a Billion Backs: Grand Priestess, Grand Lunch Lady, and Grand Funeral Director.
I work 5 jobs, all grand.
I guess I was just thinking about all of these jobs and expecting that she had more appearances. The one thing that I did find a little strange about the birth ceremony is that Kif's parents weren't there. They've only made 2 appearances on the show, but all on Amphibios 9 and typically for major events in Kif's life. Not a huge deal, but their lack of presence was felt, especially with Amy's parents being there. And as many anticipated, Amy's father Leo has been recast, now performed by Fyodor Chin instead of Billy West. Fyodor Chin is mainly known for his role as Zenyatta in Overwatch. I'm not an Overwatch player, but people seem to like him in that role. He doesn't sound exactly like Billy West's version of Leo, but I do like his performance here.
We wouldn't miss the birth of our grandbabies for $1 million.
'Cause we're so rich, that's like a penny.
I gotta say, the winnowing part of the ceremony was really brutal, especially because in the original episode, they fought so hard to allow the tadpoles to even make it to the water, so for most of them to just get eaten on their way out of the swamp by various monsters was a bit shocking. At least there was some nice attention to detail here, with some of the creatures being the same ones that they defended the tadpoles from in Kif Gets Knocked Up a Notch, and I totally understand why they knocked off a bunch of the kids. It would have been a logistical nightmare to try and give Kif and Amy 100 300 kids. Narrowing it down to 3 gives them a complete family unit that they can very reasonably use in the show when they want to. And they've got cute and fitting names, Newt, Mandy, and Axel. I also really enjoyed how they explained the differences in size for all 3 kids, with them growing at different rates because they all developed in different depths and temperatures of swamp water. In classic Futurama fashion, it's a creative way to use science to give Kif and Amy kids at different stages of development. And I appreciate that they dove pretty firmly into the fact that Leela is the kid's biological mother, especially with Newt having only one eye, which was something teased in the last shot of Kif Gets Knocked Up a notch.
Can I help you?
Though I do have more qualms with their exposition dumping again here. Very similar to the problem I had at the top of the episode. They opt to have Leela just not even remember that she was their biological mother, even re-explaining the reproduction cycle of amphibiosians. I don't know. I know it was 20 years earlier, but this feels like a major thing to happen in someone's life. And to me, having Leela just not remember it feels out of character. It does her characterization a disservice in favor of easier exposition, and I think there are other ways they could have re-explained that aspect of the story for the audience. Maybe give Leela a heart-to-heart with Fry about her own nerves surrounding the situation, knowing the tadpoles are biologically hers. In fact, Fry seems like exactly the person who would forget those details, giving an easy opportunity to re-explain them to the audience. Oh well. Luckily, what they do with Leela the rest of the episode really works for me, but we'll get there. They do a pretty great job montaging Kif and Amy's first steps into parenthood, showing that they're both enjoying this new chapter of their lives, but are also incredibly exhausted by it, which becomes a real problem when Kif is called away by Zap on a dupe mission, leaving Amy to parent the 3 kids herself. Since Amy is so exhausted, Leela ends up babysitting the kids, and they all really love Leela. These sequences are really cute, and I love seeing Leela help Amy out and take up this responsibility, but I especially love the personal dilemma it pushes onto Amy. This moment where Amy wakes up from her nap and becomes disheartened seeing how much her kids love playing with Leela might be one of my favorites in the entire series for Amy. I just really love how they used Leela's biological connection to these kids to tell a deeply personal story for Amy. It's such a smart way to build on that storyline from 20 years ago and move these characters forward in meaningful ways. And though we see Amy lose it on Leela because she feels threatened, it leads to this really lovely moment between the two of them.
I'm just proud I helped you become a mom.
Hey, before I go any further, I want to once again shout out the ongoing WGA and SAG-AFTRA strike efforts. I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about these writers and actors, and I want to reiterate that they have my full support in their fight for better pay and working conditions. I think a lot of people believe that these are simply rich creatives who are refusing to work so they can pad their bank accounts, which could not be further from the truth. Not everyone is a superstar actor or a massively successful writer. Acting and writing gigs are often few and far between, and the way the industry has shifted is exploitative of their work. Most actors and writers do not work regularly. Mini rooms in writing is an important example here of how not only writers are being taken advantage of, but how these studios are delivering you worse products through their cost-cutting measures. Basically, a mini room consists of fewer writers at lower rates who are hired only for the writing period and not through the duration of production. More writers working through production means more passes on the scripts and adjustments can be made on the series as they see what does and doesn't work when they shoot the show. It ensures better quality control and thus a better product. If you're not supportive of the strike and cite bad TV shows and movies as the reason why, you're not looking at the bigger picture. Those lower quality products are often because of the poor working conditions that these workers are fighting against. Once again, I've put a link in the description to places you can donate and show support for striking workers. They make shows like Futurama possible. Okay, let's get back to the future. Kif and Zap's mission has some stuff in it I really like comedically as well, particularly meeting this bear biologist who is actually the former whale biologist first introduced in 300 Big Boys.
I used to be a whale biologist, but I hate whales.
I also enjoyed seeing Kif rescue Zap from these tardigrades, mostly so that he could get home to help Amy. It's just nice to see Kif's meek nature fall to the wayside when he needs to help his family. But the big end of the episode dilemma involves the grand midwife, and I really like where it goes. I just think that maybe the way they got there is a bit clunky. Basically, we see the grand midwife taking notes on Kif and Amy the entire episode, which feels a bit weird to me since she traveled to Earth for this and we've only ever seen her on Amphibios 9 before, but I guess I can buy that this is part of her job. And when she sees the connection between Leela and the kids, combined with the fact that she is their biological mom, it triggers a ceremony to determine if Amy is fit to be their mother or whether or not it should be Leela. I do think it's pretty weird that Leela potentially has no say in this, but it's clear that they're trying to make the stakes high so that the ending hits harder. And admittedly, the ending is very effective. I love this moment before they go into the ceremony.
But whatever happens, you're going to be okay.
You are too.
And of course, the big emotional climax of the ceremony itself. As it turns out, they only ask one question. Do you or do you not love those children?
More than I knew I could love anything.
Which is all that truly matters.
These moments hit, and I love that Futurama knew to try and come back strong with a good emotional episode early in their latest revival run. I do just have questions about the road to these good emotional moments. This resolution makes me wonder why the Grand Midwife even went through with this ceremony at all. It was basically just traumatizing to Amy. This episode has some great character development and some truly moving emotional moments. I just think the way it gets to them was oftentimes clumsy. The expositional sequences, I felt, could have been handled better, and the narrative surrounding the ceremony felt a bit sweaty. Kif even has this really nice emotional moment where the execution just kind of confused me. They make it seem like Kif has to shoot his way through a family of tardigrades, but then literally less than a minute later, they flash back to show that he didn't actually shoot them. He basically used the annoying bear biologist as bait to get away from them. It was just such a quick flashback. It felt like they should have just shown the scene in its entirety in the first place. Honestly, while it might not hit quite as hard, the episode that comes to mind for me is actually Game of Tones. I know some people might crucify me for this, but to me, that's an episode that has a bit of a clumsy narrative, but it's filled with absolutely top-notch emotional moments that I really wouldn't trade for anything. Children of a Lesser Bog has some questionable storytelling choices and is a bit light on the comedy, but all of that is completely overshadowed by incredible emotional beats from Amy, Leela, Kif, and the children. Honestly, probably the best emotional moments we've ever gotten from Amy. It's hard to be upset with an episode that gives you this.
You are their mother, and always will be.
Or this moment.
You're my favorite mommy.
This one hits especially effectively because Newt was calling Leela mommy the entire episode. This is just really, really great stuff. Overall, I think the good really outweighs the bad in this episode. Like I said, I have some issues with how the story plays out, but the way this moves Kif and Amy forward into an entirely new place in their relationship is really exciting to me. They are now a full-fledged family and will be for the future of the series. A great status quo shift that won't overtly change the show, but will bring us rich new narratives for Amy and Kif as characters. And I'm really excited to see how they utilize Newt, Mandy, and Axel moving forward. For the people who were worried that the show would be too meta or topical because of the first episode, this episode wasn't either of those things. Just a good old-fashioned character-based Futurama follow-up. Though, next week is the episode How the West Was 10100001, which is the Old West crypto episode. I know a lot of people are concerned about the topicality of crypto, but they appear to be treating crypto mining like actual mining in an homage to the gold rush. And honestly, that is a very creative story choice. I'm really excited to see how people feel about it. I'll be right here next week covering that episode as well. And as always, remember to check out my previous episode breakdown and all my other Futurama videos. And of course, let me know below in the comments how you feel about this episode and this new season of Futurama so far. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.
I stay mellow watching Johnny Two Cellos. He talks cartoons, he's a really cool fellow. He keeps you posted on adult cartoons. If that's what you're into, then grab a spoon and a very big bowl of your favorite cereal. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon material. Johnny Two Cellos, watch him on YouTube. Now enjoy this groove and bust a move.